Hello, welcome to the Sonic Academy. My name is Matt Thomas. I record as King Unique and various other names. And today I'm going to be looking at the Arturia Jupiter 8V with you and going through all the different features and functions so that hopefully by the end of these videos you'll know your way around it pretty fluently. The Jupiter 8V is Arturia's attempt at recreating a real analog synthesizer, Roland's Jupiter 8, in a digital software form so that we can all stick it on our laptop for $100 or so rather than the $7,000 or $8,000 that the real hardware costs these days. The Jupiter 8 is pretty much universally seen as the peak of Roland's pure analog synthesizer line, the big brawling kind of polysynth that every manufacturer had to have around the late 70s, early 80s. So, as well as talking about Arturia's Jupiter 8V, we're also going to be referencing, obviously, the original synth throughout the course. So first things first, if we go back to 1980, this was the front cover of Roland's synthesizer catalogue that year. You can see on the front they're running a teaser for a brand new synthesizer, the Roland Jupiter 8. Now they already had an existing synthesizer out with a Jupiter name, the Jupiter 4, which was quite a simplistic 4-voice poly. The Jupiter 8 was going to be quite a step up in terms of power, where programming facilities were concerned. Also where polyphony was concerned, obviously it's in the name. The Jupiter 4 was a 4-voice, the Jupiter 8 was an 8-voice polyphony synth. And finally in terms of memories, and also by the time the Jupiter 8 had evolved into the 8A, in a very important change to the evolution of synthesizers, it was the first sequenceable polysynth. Quite an important instrument in its day. At the time the Jupiter was released, the big manufacturers who were dominating the polysynth market were the Americans Oberheim and Sequential. The idea at that time that a Japanese manufacturer might dominate the market was pretty much unheard of. It also marked a big departure in design and appearance. The American manufacturers had favoured the kind of wooden end cheeks combined with a fairly austere design on the front panel. Things tended to be quite monochromatic. The Jupiter 8, as you can see, was a riot of colour. Now the reason for this, apart from a slightly more flamboyant aesthetic being prevalent in Japan at the time, was also because the JP8 was really very much thought about as a performance synth as well as a programming synth. So of course all that colouring gave you very fast visual reference of what you're reaching out to when you stuck your hand out while you're playing at a gig. You knew that when you reached across to the orange and yellow buttons on the left you were going to get the arpeggiator. If you reached to the white buttons on the right you were hitting the memories, and so on. And so that instant visual feedback counts for a lot. The Jupiter 8 was very well featured. We'll go into all that obviously when we go through all the courses, but in brief it had 2 VCOs per voice, 8 notes of polyphony, 64 memories, and a sonic architecture that allowed it to be slightly more diverse than many of its competitors. Very rapidly it became a must-have synthesizer, and by 1982, the year after its release, there was a Jupiter 8A. This had slightly more stable VCOs, brighter LED display, and probably most importantly, one of the things that gave the Jupiter 8 yet more appeal to keyboard players at the time, it boasted the first interface for polyphonic sequencing, a Roland proprietary socket called the DCB, the Digital Control Bus. It was possible to have the original Jupiter 8s retrofitted with a DCB as well. What this allowed you to do was use Roland's MC4 or similar control voltage sequencers via a thing called the OP8, which converted the control voltage signals into a single DCB output, which then went into the Jupiter 8. And so for the first time, keyboard players and programmers were able to have polyphonic lines running on a synthesizer rather than multiple monosynths. This was obviously a massive breakthrough, and as a result the Jupiter 8 was all over records of that era and for the following few years. Simultaneously to this, of course, was the development of MIDI, which came just about the time the Jupiter 8A was being released. So very quickly Roland released the MD8, which allowed you to then connect your DCB Jupiter to a MIDI setup. So the Jupiter was there really at the dawn of MIDI slightly before, with polyphonic sequencing, and very quickly adapted to the new environment, thereby ensuring itself some useful longevity at the time. So in an echo from the past, at the Music Messe in 2007, Arturia also were teasing a brand new forthcoming synth, with this rather nice looking 3D model of a resurrected Jupiter 8, with the Arturia logo in the corner and the name Jupiter 8V. Well, as we now know, this is our first sight of Arturia's version of a resurrected Jupiter, along with some new functions added at the top there. Pretty much a faithful as they can copy, feature by feature and parameter by parameter, of the original Jupiter synth, just vastly cheaper and with many of the original functions expanded should you wish to use them, such as polyphony now running up to 32 voices, and of course the ability to open as many instances or as many Jupiter 8s as you want on multiple tracks. In 2010 the Jupiter 8V version 2 is released, and that is what we're going to look at now. So I'll see you in the next episode where we'll look at the oscillator section.